What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Build My List, or Build Your List, Build a Factions list. We're building a Tau list today, and it's going to be a list that we play on stream next week up against Drukhari. So I already know the matchup. I'm not going to tailor for the matchup. I'm going to try and build a list that plays into a lot of top armies, and you'll kind of go through my thought process on each unit. But we do this every single week. On Fridays, we release a video. Usually it's live streamed. This time we're going to be at ATC, a major team tournament. So it's going to be pre-recorded this time. If you're asking questions in chat, please put them in the comments below. And then when I come back from ATC, I'll be happy to answer them. But for now, this one is going to be pre-recorded. But every single week we do this on Fridays. We build that list and then we play it on stream and see it in action and refine our ideas from there. So I'm going to be doing that up against Nick's Drukhari next Wednesday. And I'm excited for that. I haven't got to put Tau on the stream for a little bit. I lost a very close game against Deathwatch, but I've won a lot of games in practice with Tau and have been tabled a couple armies, or most armies, frankly.
Crisis suits still shoot quite hard.
The army shoots. Yeah. And man, ghost kills, a lot of people have struggled against just killing them. They are very annoying, and they can jam up almost any unit in the game. On Vodkan too.
The blank 2 saves means they're like shockingly durable.
Yeah, they've got stealth. It's easy to get cover. They're 2-up save. They're T8. They're very annoying for a lot of things to deal with. So I've been liking them a lot. But let's dive into the list.
All right.
So conceptually, I just painted up the brand new Farsight model.
That model is so good.
I have been waiting for him to get rules that befit having the Supernova battlesuit. There should be special rules for having the new awesome prototype Cold Star battlesuit. Games Workshop has refused to give that to Farsight, so shame on you, Games Workshop. But as soon as, I've been waiting to, put him on table until he got rules. I figured with 10th edition he would. Still hasn't, so I'm not going to wait until the Tau Codex. I am going to just play Commander Farsight, and I think he is legitimately good. He is competing with the Cold Star Commander, which is a little bit tough, because the Cold Star is so good. He synergizes amazingly well with Crisis Suits.
Giving them Assault, because their native rule allows them to advance 6 inches, means the Cold Star's crazy.
And plus 2-inch move.
Yeah, and plus 2-inch move. 18 is better than 10.
18 is a lot better than 10. However, there's a lot of tough units in the game, and Commander Farsight's unique ability is when his models in his unit are within 9 inches, and that's not ranged attacks, that's just when they're within 9, they get +1 to wounds.
Yep. And Tau are a faction that really struggles for that high strength, high damage weapon, so getting +1 to wound on stuff like Cyclics can really swing a lot of breakpoints.
Exactly. Tau has always been like a medium range type of army with some long range guns. You can build in long range anti-tank. It just happens that on a lot of terrain, it's then harder to get angles. You're not really contesting objectives at the same time, or playing your opponent's half of the board, or threatening the stuff that's hiding behind ruins. So I like playing a more aggressive Tau. Maybe not an aggressive Tau style. It's Tau style that wants to dominate the center and make the center hard for my opponent to interact with. And Farsight actually does that amazingly well.
Yes.
He also synergizes brilliantly with the rapid ingress stratagem. Because his unit can't advance and shoot, it's hard to get him easily within 9 in the early game. But rapid ingress lets you come down into your opponent's movement phase, and then when you move 10, if you're then within another 9 inches of your opponent, you get to hit them with +1 to wound.
And there's really not much 6 Crisis Suits with all Cyclics won't kill.
Exactly. With +1 to wound, sky's the limit.
Yeah.
They can basically kill a knight without that. It's a little swingy, depending on rolling 5-ups, but once you have +1 to wound in there, they just eviscerate pretty much anything.
Plus, he's got like a strength 10 melee weapon that needs a vehicle so he can tank shock, which is pretty funny.
Yep, and once per game, he gets 4 rerolls to hit and wound for himself.
Which is not nothing.
It's not nothing. He can just finish off, wounded thing, or just...
You epic challenge a smaller character, yeah.
Yep, he can just pick it off. So I'm excited to use him. The model is just fantastic, and I've been posting a couple pictures of that in the Discord.
How many points is Commander Farsight?
He is 120. So he's a little bit cheaper than the Cold Star.
It's really only 120.
He's only 120.
Okay.
He's always been a relatively cheap character. So second up, I've already mentioned it. Guess what? Farsight goes in a 6-man Crisis unit.
Crazy.
And the best weapon by far is the Cyclic Ion Blaster. It has the downside of when you overcharge, you are taking all those hazardous tests. On average, you should lose 1.5, maybe 2 for an overcharge. But at that point, it's still a 4-man unit plus the commander, and you're getting value the following turn anyway. So I have had no problems overcharging. If it's something that I'm going to dramatically overkill, like I'm shooting at 1 medium tank, then I'll overcharge maybe 2 or 3 of the models, And if I roll maybe 3 failed hazard or 2 failed hazardous tests, I'll spend a CP reroll to reroll one of those ones and just take a wound.
Do we want 12 shield drones here, or do we want 1 marker drone? Because Farsight doesn't have a marker light.
I don't think this unit is ever going to be an observer.
Cool.
Frankly.
I think it's fair.
So in that case, it doesn't need to have it.
Yeah.
I think we'll have, if we run a second crisis unit, then we'll definitely throw a marker in there somewhere. But I think all shield generators get the 4-up invuln on everybody. Farsight already has it. And get those cyclic ion blasters as well. So this is the unit that it's going to, at one point, it's going to rapid ingress, be in a position where my opponent's like, oh god, if I have anything in this 19-inch area of the center of the board, it is just deleted from the game. So what does that mean? That means we need a stealth suit unit in here to support, because Tau, they have one stratagem that towers over everything else, and that's Strike and Fade. And you want to use Strike and Fade as many times as possible. There's a lot of abilities to increase the cost of strats, and because it's the only real Tau strat, all those opponents are going to try and make it 3 CP. And don't worry, it's happened to me many times, and I just save until I have 3 CP, and then I use it.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter how many CP you're going to make Strike and Fade. It's the only strat I'm going to use, regardless of cost. So, and Tau don't have any ways to make that free.
Suits?
They are 75 points. So we're going to put 1 gun drone in there and 1 marker drone. Marker drone gives us the ability to advance and still count as an observer and ignores cover when we are acting as an observer for our spot. Our
fusion blaster.
We're going to put the fusion blaster and the battle suit support system, so we can fall back and shoot with that model, which means if they're stuck in combat, they can still fall back and do an action because of that war gear ability. So it's a little bit of a tech unit. It's mostly there to act as a free rapid ingress with the homing beacon, but on top of that, you also get a little bit of support in being able to advance and be an observer, or fall back and do an action. So it's a nice bit of utility, and it's relatively cheap for what you get. Their observer ability is also quite good, which is
real ones to wound is nice.
It's nice to have. There are some instances where you would prefer to have that.
Elas helps.
Yep, stealth with the L in there, and then suits. I think it's stealth battle suits technically. But it used to be just stealth battle suits or stealth suits. So we've got our support for Farsight's unit. What else do we need in here? Well, Tetras are the best, in my opinion, observer unit that Tau has access to. It is 2 models that are T7 7 wounds, and they have the best observer ability, which is full rerolls to hit.
Do we want 1 Tetra, 2 Tetras, 3 Tetras?
Let's do 2 Tetra units for now.
Okay.
We could always add a third in later. But I think 2 is stock standard.
I don't think you can. If you have access to Tetras or piranhas that you can cut up to make Tetras.
There's a lot of guides out there of how to create Tetras, and you can use the piranha body to do it. It does require quite a bit of work, but...
I think I own like 10 piranhas, so a lot of mine are going to become Tetras.
I've had Tetras for 2 editions now.
Yeah.
And this is the first time where they're like... I've run them kind of as like MSU skirmishers before, but this is the first time they're like bananas good.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that I have 6 fully painted. Okay, they come in 2-man minimum. We could run 4-mans. There's no real benefit to doing that. If there was ways to split individual models to act as observer, there would. But I think the 2 is plenty fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the strongest thing that Tau has in order to kind of force opponents away from particular spaces, usually hiding behind terrain, is the Cold Star Crisis unit.
Yes.
So we're going to want one of those. So this is going to be a double crisis build. So Cold Star Battlesuit, he is going to have... I like putting 1 high output burst in there, because that's something I could split off to finish off like a 1 or 2 wound thing, or just shoot into 5 infantry. It's a nice volume of shots. It really likes having access to Kalyan.
I assume we're going to go ahead and give him a shield marker drone.
We're going to give him a shield drone, a marker drone, and 3 cyclics, which you have in there. And then Exemplar of the Kalyan is the upgrade, which is going to make him 140 points. It's a 15-point upgrade, but it allows the unit that he's leading to act as being in Kalyan turns 2 onward. And that means I don't have to bring Farsight down turn 2 if I don't feel the need, because I can just pop out the Cold Star unit, blow something up, strike and fade back, and then the following turn, Farsight comes down with his unit. Okay, so we're going to want a second crisis unit. I could run a 3-man here. We're going to run the full thing.
I'm just going to copy and paste this.
We copy and paste that, and we've already got the marker drone on the Cold Star unit, so if I want to observe let's say, for instance, I'm observing to support like my
The other
piranhas
crisis unit or something, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Both of them can act as, this would be the observer unit for Farsight's unit, and he would ignore cover, and I would spend 1 CP to give them both the benefits.
If you're shooting at something, if it's like turn 3 and your opponent has 1 knight left, and you're like, I just need to kill you, both of them in there.
Yep. If they have 1 critical damage dealer, 10-man Terminator unit, whatever it is that you need to make sure it dies, just go ahead and pop off into them.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything in the game that 2 crisis units won't kill.
I don't think that exists. Yeah. It has to have a rule where I can't target them in a certain range.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that can protect an opponent. Okay, so we've got a good basis here. We've got 2 bricks of crisis units. One is going to start on the table with the Cold Star, and it's going to pop out, do some damage turn 1, strike and fade back. If my opponent gives me opportunities, usually they're hiding, so they're going to hide. I'm not going to do anything turn 1. Turn 2, I pop out with the Kalyun active, blow something up, and then turn 3, Farsight can come in. Or turn 2, I can bring him in and just delete whatever the key resource is.
Yeah.
And we got our free rapid ingots with the stealth battle suits. We got 2 Tetras. They can be the guided if we need to. So where do we go from here? First of all, I like having mission play.
Agreed.
Around this. So let's start with the unit of Crute Hounds. That's going to be 30 points for 4 models. This is, obviously they are OC 0 now, so they're not contesting objectives or holding your backfield like they used to be. Instead, they are starting in strategic reserves, coming down in the corner of a board,
30 points.
And doing an action. Let's just start with 1. We can always add more.
They're also super tiny, so like they can fit in awkward spots. They're great for stuff like Ares and Nile are behind enemy lines.
Yep. All right. What else is a good mission tool?
Maybe some piranhas.
Piranhas. I like having at least 1 piranha. We're probably going to go up to 2 or 3 solo ones, but we'll see on points. So that's going to be 55 points. It's going to have a fusion blaster and 2 seeker missiles. And it's just, it can start on the board, has a scout move, so it can go touch objectives, touch the center of the board if you needed to. Can act as an observer if you want to just give +1 ballistic skill. I won't give ignores cover or any other benefit, but if you don't want to expose anything else, you can just get the +1 ballistic skill if you're overkilling your opponent anyway. And it's also relatively durable. It's T7, 7 wounds.
Yeah, you have to put like real shots into it.
You have to put real shots.
Like bolt guns are not going to cut
I've had like a kill team charge. In the game I played on stream, a kill team charged into Piranha and didn't finish it off.
Oh, yeah.
With like Terminators in it, so. And switch the H.
That was it. HA?
Yep.
I can never spell piranha. It's one of those words like no matter how many times I do it.
There you go.
There we go.
So that's going to be our Piranha, 55 points, very cheap. It's a good way to get Seeker Missiles into a list. Now let's add Ghost Keels.
Okay.
So a Ghost Keel, I know it's 170, so it's a little on the pricey side, and it doesn't do much damage. Certainly not consistently. But what it does do is it's a lone operative, so it can only be targeted by ranged attacks if your opponent's within 12. And they are infiltrators, so they can forward deploy, and they have stealth. They can blank 2 damages, reduce incoming damage to 0 twice with their stealth drones. And let's go ahead and put the Fusion Collider on here.
The Fusion Collider, really?
I think I have been using the castle of having Ghost Keels on my half of the board, holding my objectives, and going up the table.
Is it Fusion?
Like Laking. Yeah, and the Twin Fusion. So Fusion Collider and then a Twin Fusion Blaster. And I found that what I actually really want them to do is hold the center objectives so that my opponent then sends stuff out, gets within 12 of them, and then my crisis units have easy access to just kill all of that.
Yeah.
And they're not guaranteed without committing something real to kill that Ghost Keel. And then if they don't get within 12, I just easily hold down max primary turn after turn. And then when they do get close, I can either fall back and shoot, or if they just try and contest the objective instead of charging it, I can then move and charge something else the next turn and just jam things up with the Ghost Keels. I think that's the best way for them. Start in the center. If my opponent makes mistakes in positioning, I go move and charge and jam stuff up. And even then, they're not still guaranteed to die. They still take a ton of firepower, take pressure off my crisis.
Weirdly durable.
But I want to take away movement from my opponent. So let's put 2 of those in there. I think 2 is what you want to run. 3 is totally possible. But let's see where we're sitting points-wise.
All right. How many points is this so far?
I don't have that in my brain immediately.
I'm just going to pull out a calculator. Let's do the math.
Let's do the math on this. But I'm liking this. Because we have Commander Farsight, we can't run Ethereals. If that restriction didn't exist, or we didn't have Farsight, I would totally run 1 Ethereal here, with the hover drone, a gun drone, and a shield drone. because he doesn't have For the Greater Good. Otherwise,
So this
I put
is
marker.
1,700. So you have 300 points left.
Cool. We still have a decent amount of points.
Yeah.
I would have Ethereal and Anva in here if Farsight didn't have that rule or wasn't in this list, if it was a second Cold Star, for instance. But because he's in here, we can't run Ethereals. So we have a couple options. We have a Farsight Marksman that could be added here. It's a lone op. It has a Marker Light unit, and it can just sit in our backfield and not be targeted. We can add an extra Ghost Keel. We could add a bunch of extra Piranhas. So I want a little bit more anti-tank here. We could go for broadsides. We could cut like the Crude Hounds and get a broadside unit.
Yeah.
We could also do that and just go for max damage. So we're playing up against Mr. Nick Nanavati with Drukari, but we're probably also playing into meta with a lot of like cheap resources, a lot of I go back into reserve, I come down.
Yeah.
So I want some amount of screens here. I've got 2 Tetra units, I've got 2 Ghost Keels, I've got Stealth Suits, Crude Hounds, and a Piranha. It's a pretty good amount of screens so far. So let's say that we want something else to screen our backfield that requires our opponent to actually have to come down. I'm thinking let's go ahead and throw a Farsight Marksman in here. Because he's a lone op, if we're using the Ghost Keels a little more aggressively in the middle of the table, then we want something sitting on our backfield objective that it doesn't get picked up by Desolation.
He's 75?
He is just 70.
70.
95. No, he would not be in here with that. He's 70, so he's a little pricey. We might end up deleting him.
Yeah.
But let's add another Piranha. So we got plus 70, plus 55. Okay. And then we're sitting at 1825. So a single Ghost Keel, or the third Ghost Keel, would bring us to 1995.
I quite like that list.
And this one, we could be thinking about, hey, maybe we do want one that with a bit longer range, and it's going to play kind of the objective on the far corner.
So one with Cyclic?
Let's put one with Cyclic. One with the Cyclic Iron Raker.
Put Cyclic.
Okay.
Do you want Twin Fusion?
Yep, I still want the Twin Fusion, just in case
I think
it does
is
get
the best
aggressive.
one. Yeah.
The Flamer, unfortunately,
Doesn't
if
do
it was the 2d6 shots it used to be, I would take it because
D6
it'd be
shots.
great into GSC or whatnot.
Yeah.
That's another thing is these guys can actually survive against the demo charge unit.
Because they're stealth.
It's not guaranteed, so they have to pop the buffs. They have to get +1 to wound and +1 ballistic skill with the extra AP. But if we go ahead and roll that out, if they don't roll a ton of 6s to hit on sustained hits, it is likely I'm making 4-ups against this, and I could
The
potentially
first
survive.
2, and
Exactly, I can blank 2 of those.
they can't shoot a Ridge Runner at you.
And they can't shoot the Ridge Runner to get the extra AP.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting tool. It is pricey, but it's not so pricey where it's not like a 400-point Necron unit that gets deleted by a 150-point unit.
And your battle suits, you don't need observers. You can just be like bang, 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 and just kill a bunch of stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I quite like the Ghost Skills into GSC, and I like their aggressive potential because I can deploy them 9.1 away if a lot of lists don't have the Aberrant unit. Some lists do, and then I'm obviously trying to screen that out, and if Aberrants want to come into a Ghost Skill, go ahead, and then I get to delete them and push them back. I'll trade a Ghost Skill for the Aberrants for sure. Yeah. But if they don't have the Aberrant units, which a lot of these armies are running like 4 to 6 of the Neophyte bricks and then 2 to 4 of the Acolyte bricks, if they're doing that, I can just push on them turn 1, just get all inside of them, and then have the Ghost Keels and the Tetras screening the outside where the Crisis Suits are going to be. So I quite like this style. You could go for more mission play here, in which case you would probably cut the Marksman and a Ghost Keel and get another solo Piranha. You would get even more
Crude Hounds.
2 more units of Crude Hounds, and then some other cheap thing. And like I said, if you trade Farsight out, then you get access to a cheap Ethereal or Anva as well. So if we're going with this style, this is what I like. We could go for heavier anti-tank. We have Farsight's unit, so I'm not as concerned about Knights being in the center of the board or a 10-man Terminator brick. I've got the tools to deal with that.
Yeah, seriously.
So I think this is a really good balance. I have some fusion colliders to help pick away at vehicles as needed. I've got some seeker missiles on the Piranhas. But like I said, if you cut that Ghost Keel, the Marksman, and a Crude Hound unit, you can get access to you can get close to getting some broadsides in here as well. So I think this is what I'm going to run. I think this is a nice mix of things. I've got a couple lone operatives that are going to control objectives, force my opponent to get close to me, and then my crisis units might not even have to strike and fade. I might get to save CP, or they come into the range of Farsight's unit, so I don't have to worry about precisely measuring everything. It's just going to be easy. I'm within 9, you're dead. Just get it out of here.
Yeah.
But this gives me redundancy. If I have to trade one of the crisis units, then I still have a second one to just dominate the late game.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about this list?
I love this list. I think now that you pointed out to it, the midfield ghost kills with the fusion I think is really strong. And the more Tau lists I've been seeing that have double crisis, I think that is the answer. Yeah.
I think broadsides on certain terrain or against knight heavy meta is a perfectly strong option.
Agreed.
But I worry about on some of the terrain that I plan where first floor totally blocks line of sight.
Especially if you're playing a much W setup where it's like the box in the center. The broadsides don't do a gosh darn thing.
They're going to have to start in reserves, and your opponent who's savvy is going to screen back their firing angles and push you back. So they're not going to really do as much. I feel like the crisis suits want to be center and that ability to go around.
Yeah.
So it may be in certain metas, maybe if knights get nerfed in the future and we're seeing less big stuff, maybe 10-man Terminator bricks or 10-man Custodia units get nerfed and are less popular. Maybe then you don't need 2 6-man crisis units. Maybe you only need 1, and then you can get a lot more mission stuff. But I know people have been skeptical on ghost skills. The thing is, you forget that they do any amount of damage. Just imagine that they do no damage.
Yeah.
They are there to hold objectives, force units to come into the center of the table, and then tie up enemy units.
Yep. And if they do damage, cool.
It's a bonus if they do damage, but the most success that I've had, especially in the practice games that I played, is literally charging ghost kills into stuff. I had them charge into Talos. I've had them charge into all sorts of different things, which I have played the Jukari matchup. So I'm excited to see what Nick comes up with. I expect it to be a ton of Dark Lances, and they're going to have a fun time getting within 12 of those ghost kills.
Yeah.
The thing is, like... I'm worried about indirect fire. I'm worried about long-range anti-tank. I'm worried about things that can fire and fade, like a Wraith Knight that can pop out and then Phantasm back. All that stuff struggles to deal with ghost skills specifically. And it's not that easy to outcontest them. They're 3 OC each, so if I have 2 on an objective, I can just be like, all right, your 5-man nonsense isn't going to contest this away from me. So I think this is a good balance. We'll see how it performs. But like I said, we were recording this right before ATC and then releasing it as a pre-record. So if you have any questions for me, please go ahead and post those in the comments. Give us a like. Tell your friends about the channel. Please subscribe. And then if you want to check out more content, like some of the Tau games that are going to be coming up in the future and some of the ones I played previously, or the Tau Faction Fundamental that I did, please check out the War Room. It's in the description below, thewarroom.vhx.tv. There's a 3-day free trial, and you get all sorts of awesome content for every faction, but I know if you're here, you're probably a big Tau fan, and I love Tau. I think the army is actually very strong. I don't think the win rate represents what this army can do on the table, which is basically table almost all the armies that I've played against. So the Tau is in a much better position now. I don't think Tau has as much variety. And this has been a problem that Tau has multiple editions, is that generally they have 1 to 2 very strong builds archetypes. Outside of that, there's a lot of weaker units that as soon as you start running those, that's why the win rate plummets. It's also a hard army to play.
Agreed. I think hammerheads, that kind of stuff's quite bad.
The thing is, like, on the surface, you get a reroll. It's like a decent gun. If it still ignored invulns, I think it would have a place in the meta. But it's a little too pricey for what it does. It should be like 125, in that like relatively cheap one-shot battle tank area. It's too pricey. And that's a lot of options are just a little too pricey for what they bring. And instead, Tau, I think their best play style is forcing their opponent to come into the center and then using your medium-range guns to absolutely eviscerate everything there. And then you dominate the late game with your crisis units. So I think that's, once again, the strongest style. It's also the style that fits my play style, so I'm probably biased there for sure. But I'm excited to get this on the table. I'm playing Farsight for the first time on stream, and I just painted him up. He's looking baller, so I'm excited to just play this one.
Really excited to watch this game.
Thanks for joining me, Quentin.
Of course.
And once again, if you have any other comments, please leave them below, and I will answer them when I come back from ATC. But so long for now. Thanks.